of float posters. Now, you can get top quality, high gloss, full color infographics from Afloat Posters featuring all of the clubs from your favorite league, including EFL League One and USL Championship. Afloat Posters also has infographics featuring defunct historic leagues and even new infographics featuring past and present teams from your hometown. You can get 3 different sizes of posters at Afloat Posters starting at just $8.99 US. And now, you can save 10% on anything at the website afloatposters.com. Using the promo code ATP10. That's ATP10. Just enter that code at checkout for 10% off at Afloat Posters. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on what side of the pond you're on. And welcome to the Across the Pitch EFL League One Week 9 review, Week 10 preview. My name is Phil Kennedy, and as always for these episodes, I'm joined by Tony Robinson. How you doing today up in Canada, Tony?
I'm doing well, Phil. It's a beautiful sunny day. We had a bit of frost last night and a little bit of freezing, but a beautiful fall day and just ideal settings for some football chat.
Absolutely. And we've got a lot to go over today because there was 11 matches that happened here yesterday. Of course, one of the matches, Accrington Stanley versus Swindon Town, had to be postponed. The most recent report is that I guess there were 19 total positive cases of COVID with Accrington. I have had it confirmed to me that none are serious. So, I mean, that's the important part. But the, obviously full recovery. So that's why we only have 11 and not 12 games to go over. But let's get started with the ones that we went in depth on in our preview episode last time. One of those was the Tractor Boys. Of Ipswich Town against Gillingham. And Gillingham ended up falling 1-0 at Portman Road to Ipswich there. And I don't think that there was too much surprise here. I had kind of thought that Ipswich was going to get back on track after the 2 losses. It took until the 86th minute for Teddy Bishop to make that happen, but it did end up being 3 points for the Tractor Boys. What were your thoughts on that one, Tony?
Yeah, it was a good win for Ipswich, leaving a bit late, really. They certainly had the run of the play. And as we mentioned before, this was important for them to sort of bounce back. And they did lots of possession, 71%, lots of shots, 18, and with 5 on target. But to give credit to Gillingham, they look pretty decent. And, based on percentage-wise, they probably shouldn't have got anything out of it. They only had 29%. But 5 shots on target out of 10, that's pretty good. So they may, if you ask them, they may feel they were should have come away with a draw. But a home win for Ipswich, good result for them.
Yeah, I mean, this one ended up on the final score sheet going the way that I thought it would be. But as you pointed out, Tony, it was a bit of a lucky win for Ipswich when you start looking at the percentage. Definitely an outlier game when you see Ipswich shooting 28% and Gillingham shooting 60%.
Yeah.
Again, guess what you have, Tony, though?
A good goalkeeper between the pipes.
Exactly, yeah. You had Tomas Oli getting back on track, making the six save clean sheet, and That just seems to be the story time after time is, if you're not going to shoot a good percentage, your goalie needs to carry you to the win, and that's what we had here.
Yeah, and we both had a win. Both of us with the 2-0 win for Ipswich, and it was actually the 1-0 win. So we both on the right track, and I think it was an expected result. But as I said, Ipswich kind of left it a bit late. You don't want to be doing that because you should be winning those matches, and if you don't convert some of those chances, you leave the other team in the match to take a result.
Well, honestly, I think this is what Ipswich needed to kind of break out of their funk, if you will. We talk a lot about confidence and how that can carry into the next match. And I remember earlier this season where Portsmouth had been struggling to score. They got a very late goal against Rochdale, and then they came out and got 4 goals to the next match. And I kind of feel like this might be a moment like that for Ipswich, where they're going to carry that confidence from the late goal into their next match.
Yeah, you could be right, Phil.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the team that's at the top of the table and still at the top of the table. And that would be our surprise team of the year, Lincoln City, the Ips, getting the 1-0 victory at Alexandra Stadium, making short work of the Crew. And what did you think of that one?
Well, it was a good win, and as I said, they're playing with tons of confidence. Crew keeper made one of the saves of the season so far, and basically kept them in the match. And it's surprising because, I think on the road, generally the home team does have higher possession, and you can concede that to the team, and you try to score on the counter. And I think that's what Lincoln was working with, because Crew had a good 58% possession, and their efficiency was at 50%, Phil, with 8 and 4 on target. Yet Lincoln, again, more shots but less on target. They had 13 and 5 on target. So a lower percentage possession and shots on target, yet they come away with a win. That's what happens when you're in good form.
Well, absolutely, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Tony, because we're starting out with 2 outlier games in a row where Crew had the 50% shooting percentage, Lincoln the 38%, and got the win. Again, it comes back to that hot goalkeeper, and we've talked a lot about George Grant and how he's leading the Golden Boot race. A guy that we truly have not talked about enough is Alex Palmer. He had the 4-save clean sheet here in this one. He did have that outstanding save there that you mentioned there, but that really doesn't even speak for his whole body of work. I was actually doing some research on this exact thing right before we recorded today. And Alex Palmer, that was his 6th clean sheet of the season, which is tied for the league lead. But this is what's truly impressive to me. Is I was looking at save percentage stats, and I consider 70% to be my benchmark save percentage, where if your keeper is at 70%, that's kind of average. Anything below that, maybe you need to improve a little bit. Anything above that, your keeper's doing really well. Well, right now you have actually 13 teams that are at 70% or better, with Doncaster being bang on 70%, and 11 teams that are below 70%. However, number one, far and away at the top at 85.7%, you have Lincoln City. So Alex Palmer is stopping 85% plus of the shots that he's facing, 24 out of 28 on the season, 0.56 goals allowed. I mean, we talked about Ryan Alsop and how he kind of carried Wickham last year. I mean, Palmer is really doing that same thing. And I had been a little bit concerned about getting rid of Josh Vickers because he had just really been a staple at Lincoln and, it led him to trophies and stuff. But, this Michael Appleton guy sure knew what he was doing and going out and getting Palmer.
Yeah, and we said any successful team has to have a strength through the spine, and certainly Lincoln have got that now. And with Appleton doing an outstanding job. From prediction wise, we saw more goals in this, Phil. We both had a 2-2 draw and actually a 1-0 win for Lincoln. So maybe we didn't have the confidence in Lincoln that some people have, and we're slowly coming around. But an excellent result for Lincoln to keep them top of the league, because there's some good teams that's nipping on their heels at the moment.
Absolutely, and I think that you just have to mention play Palmer once again, because this is a goalkeeper who's playing as good as you can play right now. Now, moving on to our next match, this was one that we disagreed on, and Tony, you ended up getting it right, because Plymouth Argyle got the 2-1 win over Doncaster. With this one, both teams were right on 36 save percentage, so that would be 36% shot percentage. So that one was a wash there. But it seems like, you kind of had it pegged on where, Plymouth is just a tough team to beat at home.
Yeah, their home record is pretty good. They played 4 up to that point and won 3 and drew 1. So, and both of their goals really, I don't know if you want to say they were defensive errors by Doncaster, but good play from Plymouth, because both the goals came from wingers going to the byline and bringing the ball back, and somebody being on the end of that pass to slot it in, and Doncaster didn't pick that up, and and unfortunately it cost them a result. I think it was one of those. I just thought with home form, the way Plymouth are. I just felt that they were gonna pull through, and they did. They're at the top of the table in home form, so very tough place to go.
Tony, I thought you were going to say that their opponents go down and get all fooled up on those Cornish game hens, so they're a step slow the next day.
Well, to be honest, no, I didn't think that.
Well, let's move on to the last in-depth match, and this is the one that I think we referred to as the Toilet Bowl. And that was AFC Wimbledon against Blackpool. This one saw the home side, Wimbledon, get the 1-0 victory. Callum Riley scored in the 13th minute, and we thought this might be an ugly match. And looking at the Blackpool side, I see that they had 2 send-offs. Ethan Roomson in the 38th minute, Daniel Ballard in the 75th minute. So that's just never a good sign, is it, Tony?
No, they give up the goal early too, down the 1-0 after 13 minutes. The sending off at the 38-minute mark didn't help, and they were both. When you look at the fouls, they were both red card offenses, and maybe that's a sense of frustration coming out with the players, but that's going to hurt them down the road. And percentage wise, they have for most of the match having only 10 men, they had 54% possession. So I think they have something about them if they could just keep all the players on the pitch. They did get 4 shots on target out of 10, so they were doing something right. But it's just when you're in that, as I say, when we talk about Lincoln being in that form of winning, Blackpool are just in the opposite way and doing a lot worse. As we said, Lincoln are doing not much better than what we expected. Blackpool are doing the opposite, and a low percentage compared to Blackpool for Wimbledon, because they had 12 shots with 5 on target. But they made it count. And I think we thought nobody wanted to win that one, and Wimbledon did.
Yeah, I mean, if this run of form keeps up, we might have to downgrade them from Blackpool to Deadpool.
It could be. Well, maybe Ryan Reynolds wants to buy them instead of Rexford. and rename the team the Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, this one we did finally just inch out a victory on shot percentage because Wimbledon had the 42% versus the 40%, and I think that the one thing that's worth mentioning here is, I mean, we did once again have Connell Truman coming up big with the 4-save clean sheet. But one of the things we talked about is how that Wimbledon needed to get production from people other than Joe Piggott. And we'll throw Ryan Longman in there too because he scored some goals. But they did have Callum Riley. He got his first goal of the season, and that's a guy that they're going to need to contribute more if they're going to stay up this year. So I think that was big for him. And Tony, I think that we need to do a Callum count. What we should do is we should keep track of all the players in the league named Callum and how many goals they've scored, and have a weekly Callum count. So add one to the Callum count.
Well, I think you're going to have to do that because I have trouble keeping count on my socks in my sock drawer, Phil. So
I'll do the math on that one and have it ready for next episode. I'll have an official Callum count next.
You're the stat man on that. That's your area of responsibility now, Phil.
Well, let's quickly run through the rest of the matches. We had MK Dons, who seemed to be formidable at Stadium MK at least. They picked up a 2-0 win over Wigan Athletic, and Wigan really seems to be struggling right now, Tony.
Yeah, they didn't have a good match. No shots on target, only 34% possession. And against a team that really you would have expected more from Wigan against, and they're going in the wrong direction. Only 1 point out of the last 5 matches. Not a good result and not a good performance from Wigan.
Yeah, absolutely. And with shots on target in this one, MK Dons were 6 of 13, 46%. Wigan was 1 of 7, 14%. That makes teams winning the shot percentage battle thus far 2-1-2. And then the next one here was a bit of a surprising draw, I would say. This would be my surprise result of the week. Was Peterborough drawing 2-2 at home against Burton Albion. You had Kane Hemmings, who I questioned how effective he was going to be at the beginning of the season. He had a brace for Burton in this one, so apologies there. It seems like he is a top-quality League One striker, and Burton is certainly going to need it the way they've been conceding. But Tony, were you surprised to see that Peterborough didn't win this one at home against what had been a struggling Brewers team?
Yes, it was my surprise of the week as well, Phil. I think everybody expected a clear Peterborough win based on their form. They have a really good home record. Actually, going into this match, they'd won all 3 at home, and Burton were just conceding goals and really only had 1 point away. So from their place, surprise result. And again, it's something from Burton to build on. A result like that against a top team gives a struggling team lots of confidence.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're still on the bottom of the table, but they've got 3 draws in the last 5 matches, so that's encouraging. A win might be just around the corner.
I'm not sure on this one. I feel like this is your typical Tuesday night result where on a Tuesday night, sometimes something happens that just doesn't quite make sense. I don't know if it really says a whole lot about the long-term form of either team. I think it says something about the Posh defensively, but, I think we've always kind of known that the Posh were going to have their struggles on defense. Johnson Clark Harris did get a goal. It was a penalty kick, but, hey, he cashed it in. So, he, seems to be continuing his nice run of form. So, I'm just going to call this a Tuesday night special. Maybe that'll be a new thing that we have on the show with the Tuesday night games. I'm going to call this the Tuesday night special. Like you come into the restaurant and you say, "What's the special today?" And the Tuesday night special ends up being leftover from Monday night.
Well, it's Peterborough were in great form, and won all 4 matches prior to this one. So Darren Ferguson will not be happy with that result, whereas Burton will be. So a surprise result for sure.
Well, the next one I think was less of a surprise, even though it was a road team winning. That was Hull City getting the 3-1 win over Bristol Rovers.
Pieces of 8.
I think Bristol had been on a little bit of a nice run of form lately. Hull City, it had a couple hiccups lately, but at the end of the day, this is just a situation where the superior team went in and took care of business.
Yeah, and Bristol got off to a good start with scoring in the first 2 minutes, and Hull didn't panic, and a good team and scored all the. Really, I think probably Bristol fell a little unjust because they had the 1-0 lead to halftime, and then Hull popped in 3 with the last one coming in at 5 minutes into injury time. Not an unexpected result, I don't think. I think we all would have picked Hull, but look, if you look at the possession, Bristol did well, and I think most of that would probably be in the first half. But they had 54% shot wise, only 3 shots, 2 on target. Obviously, they tried the defensive work, and it didn't pan out. Lots of shots from Hull. 10 with 4 on target, right around the mark that we want to see, Phil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great point, Tony, because that's exactly what I was going to say. So this particular match, Bristol shot 67%, Hull shot 40%. So that does actually take teams winning the shooting percentage battle to 2-2-3 now for this game week, which is unusual. But I think this is a perfect illustration of something that I talk about where if your shooting percentage is too high, it means that you've been a little bit overly selective. And if you can hit right about that 40% mark, then, you're probably taking about all the shots that you should have been. Well, when I see Bristol Rovers 2 out of 3, well, that kind of screams out overly selective, especially considering they had 54%. Meanwhile, Hull 4 out of 10, they hit right on that magic 40%. So, overall, I think that the moral of the story here is that as our stats have proved week after week, that the team that wins the shooting percentage battle is going to win most of the time, but that 40% is really that sweet spot that you're going to be aiming for.
Yeah, I think you're bang on, Phil.
All right, well, let's move on to the next result here, and that was Rochdale and Sunderland, and this one was at Rochdale. Ended up being a 2-2 draw, and I can't imagine that Phil Parkinson is too happy with that result.
No, and all 4 goals coming in the first half, and I think both managers probably had a real good chat in the changing rooms and told everybody to tighten up, and that's certainly what happened. It's you've got to be for Rochdale. You've got to be happy with that result, and again, Sunderland, like you say, that's an opportunity that a match they were going into, no doubt thinking they were going to win. I know, especially, I think the Sunderland fans would have looked at that for 3 points and only came away with one.
Well, absolutely. And I think that this, once again, this just shows, what kind of a manager Brian Barry Murphy is and how good he is at getting maximum out of everybody. Matty Lund had a brace in this game. He's now up to 4 goals on the season. This was a guy that was on Rochdale last year. He only played in 5 matches, had 1 goal. So, I mean, with guys like Henderson and Camps left, we kind of wondered, okay, where are the goals going to come from? And Brian Barry Murphy, he seems to be a guy that knows how to get results. And, certainly against a team like Sunderland, to get any points if you're Rochdale is an accomplishment. Even though this was a draw, we'll look at shot percentage. 3 out of 13 for Rochdale. Sunderland was 7 of 13. So I think really that the big story kind of here is that Lee Burge, who has been so good this season, he only made 1 save out of 3 shots. So it was certainly an off day for him. Meantime, Rochdale's goalie, Gavin Bazunu, he made 5 out of 7 saves, so a very nice game for him. So, I mean, this one, really was the keepers kind of. I think Sunderland should have won based on the amount of chances that they created, but Rochdale's keeper just performed a little bit better.
Well, and Rochdale have gone undefeated in the last 3 matches. I think they're rounding into shape, and they're a team that probably would be a measuring stick. And we'll talk about that, in a 2 or 3 weeks, a measuring stick against teams like Stanley, because if you're going to be in and around those guys, you can beat them. You should know where you stand in the league. So yeah, Rochdale. I think we're gonna keep an eye on them. Some people had them picked for relegation, and I think the manager is doing a good job there. And we'll have to keep an eye on that. A good result for Rochdale.
Well, I'll tell you what, I agree with one of the things you're saying there and kind of disagree with another. I honestly feel like, at least with what Stanley has shown so far, that maybe their aspirations should be higher than just finishing above Rochdale. I mean, I think that Stanley should be shooting for 12th or better to be top half of the table. I think that they've shown that they have the ability to be that. As far as Rochdale's concerned, I think you're bang on, though, and I'm going to predict right now that AFC Wimbledon and Rochdale will finish 19th and 20th, and both will stay up this year.
Well, I think they'll both stay up, and I think you're being a bit hard on Rochdale after what they've seen their performances. I think they'll be higher than that. And when I say measuring stick for Stanley, I'm giving credit to Rochdale for being a lot better than I anticipated. And so if you are a measuring stick against a team that's going to be moving up the table, then it may be a comparison you can take a look at.
Well, I mean, I think Rochdale looks strong right now, but you have to take in consideration it's a long season, and they don't have a lot of depth. So as injuries happen, I think they're going to be one of those teams that maybe gets into a tough run over the winter. I mean, we talk about all the time that February is really the month where contenders start separating themselves. So we're still a long way off from that. But I think that we can both agree that Rochdale looks better than we thought they were going to be coming in.
Agreed.
All right, well, we've got two more matches here. Fleetwood Town picking up the 1-0 win over Shrewsbury at home. And, this kind of falls in line with Fleetwood getting back on track. Shed Evans got another goal, which is something I had mentioned would be important, was for them to get him on track. So not too many surprises from my end here. What are you thinking, Tony?
No, it's probably a match you would have expected Fleetwood to score more. Possession-wise, bang on equal for both teams, and Fleetwood did have 13 shots, 5 on target, and I think what let Shrewsbury down is 9 shots and only 1 on target. And as we know, you're not going to get many results with that efficiency or lack thereof. And Shrewsbury are a team that's really going in the wrong direction. After a draw and a win, they've lost 3 in a row. And again, it's the result that you would have looked at for Fleetwood to pick up as they seem to be getting things back together. I don't think they're on firing on all cylinders, but they are steadily, slowly moving up the table as we expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And they won the shooting percentage battle with this one 38% to 11%, which makes our shooting percentage right now is 3-3-3 so far this week. So the 10th one here is going to be the rubber match.
Okay.
So one thing I did notice, Tony, is that Callum Camps had to come off in the 27th minute. I'm assuming that had to be an injury. Did you hear anything about what happened with that?
No, I haven't. But you know, obviously at that time in the match, one has to assume that it was an injury that hopefully it's not too serious, and he was more taken off for precaution, because he is such a big part of that team that you don't want to risk anything serious by leaving him on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll keep up track on that and get some more info on that on our next episode. The last match here is Portsmouth 4-0 over Northampton, and no surprises here.
No, I guess the only surprise I would have it was 1-0 at half time. We mentioned last week Marquise, and he had 2 goals. I like him, and Harness is also scored. They're the guys that we expect to see, and they are now scoring. And I certainly hope this keeps Pompey fans happy, because when you look at, I know it's Northampton and you're expected to beat them, but as we've said before, scoring 4 goals is not common in League One.
No,
and coming away with a clean sheet. Now, granted, Northampton are, as I said, in poor form, and Portsmouth only lost 1 in the last 5. Good result, and that's what you expect. And it's those kind of matches are good for not only your morale, but they're good for your goal difference too, which could be, for a team like Portsmouth, could be extremely important when it comes to playoff time.
And I'm sorry, Tony, I actually missed one match, because so what I was looking at here is, so like I had said on the last one, that we were 3-3-3 on the shot percentage battle. Pompey won the shot percentage here 50% to 4. So that makes us 4-3-3, which is only 10 matches, and there was 11. And I actually missed Charlton's 2-0 win over Oxford on the list. And that's a bit of an interesting one, Tony, because, Oxford, they were a team that, we expected to be at the top of the table. They've had some matches postponed. We've talked about the possible playoff hangover. They're 2-0-5 now. I think it's panic time in Oxford.
Well, you get to this point in the season where you get 9, 10, 11 matches, and this is where conversations may start with who's the first manager to go. And Carl Robinson might be on that list. Unfortunately, he's done such a good job, but they are way underperforming. Having said that, they gave up when you're in poor form too, and things don't bounce your way. They give up a goal in the 46th minute, which put the Athletics up 2-0, and that could be a backbreaker, and it kind of looks that it was. You got to keep an eye on. Charlton have quietly moved up the table and won 4 in a row. It's not an unexpected result. Good result for Charlton for sure.
Well, absolutely, and with this one, our shot percentage was 40% to Charlton and 25% to Oxford. So the shot percentage winners have rallied to go 5-3-3 this week. But one thing I did want to mention with Charlton, this was something that came up on my goalkeeper research earlier, is that the guy that is tied with 6 clean sheets for the league is Ben Amos of Charlton. He's got another one here. He made a 3-save clean sheet here against Oxford. His 815% save percentage, or 81.5%, depending on how you like to say it, is second in the league behind Palmer's. He's stopped 23 out of 27 shots. So, Palmer is at 28 shots, 24 saves. Amos is at 27 shots, 23 saves. So, these two guys have just been incredible, and they're really carrying their teams.
Yeah, and Oxford, to give some credit to Oxford, they did have 59% possession, and I think Charlton, probably knowing that they had a 2-0 lead, didn't press as much and let Oxford play with the ball a bit more in the second half. But obviously they kept the shots from distance, and obviously a good game plan. But I'm a fan of the Lee Boyer, so I think he's got them playing well, and a team that to be looked at seriously in our review show.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. And now let's move on to Week 10. Well, I can't believe I'm saying 10 already, but what are the big matches that you've written down that we're going to go over for Week 10, or what's the first one at least?
Well, I think we've got to look at this one because we talked about them not always positively, but they come up in our conversations quite a bit. Is MK Dons at home to AFC Wimbledon, which obviously a connection in history, those two teams. This is you're looking at AFC Wimbledon 11th with 12 points, and MK Dons 17th with 8 points. So this is a match where, if you look at their home records, MK Dons 2-1-1, away record for Wimbledon is also 2-2-1. This one is, to me, is a tough one to call, but I'm going down the middle on this one, Phil, and I expect to see this one a draw.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, this is always one of those interesting games whenever it pops up on the schedule, because it's which one is the Dons game, if you will. And, with this one, I'm going to actually go 2-1 in favor of MK Dons. Just because it is at Stadium MK. And as I noted, MK Dons have been in good home form lately.
Yeah, if, when you look at 10th in the home form table, that's pretty good. But, it's one of those matches that I'm just not sure who wants to win it the most. I think both teams obviously want to win it, but who's actually going to come out? But if you're going to give anybody advantage, I think in a case of these two teams, you would give the advantage to the home team.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is a derby of sorts. It's a different kind of derby. I mean, these guys genuinely hate each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those matches that it's just when you look at the history of football, it's one of those matches that's just totally unusual. And when they play each other, that's why when I saw it on the fixture list, I thought this is one we'd want to keep an eye on just because of the history of the two teams.
It's like when the Arizona Coyotes play the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, that's you're on the right track with that one.
All right, well, we're going to have to skip the betting part this week because the lines are down right now.
Okay, well, I think we've covered two good options, and I've got the draw, and you've got a home win, so I bet you we're not far off the betting line. The next one might be a little tougher to handicap because I'm looking at fifth place Portsmouth on 17 points, taking on at home sixth place Charlton with 16 points. I think this has the potential to be probably the match of the week.
Because you have Portsmouth who's been scoring goals like none other, going against Amos, the hot keeper that we just talked about. So something's got to give. Yeah,
I Portsmouth's home record is a bit might be the concern because they've lost two at home, and Charlton have only lost one away. This is both teams really going into and going in good form, but Charlton probably maybe have the better. They've won the last four, drew won four in a row. Portsmouth lost 4 matches ago. This is one that I just have that feeling again that I'm going to go for an away win on this one, just because the way Charlton is rounding into form and the way they're playing. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Charlton win, Phil.
This one feels like a 0-0 draw to me.
0-0?
0-0.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Charlton, they only scored 9 and 4 and 5 against. But Portsmouth they're popped in some goals, 16 and given up 7. So yeah, it's one of those things that going where an away win is against what the goals for and against say. But I just think Portsmouth's home record may let them down in this one. But we'll see. We may. I think there'll be goals in it, so I'll stick with my 2-1.
I mean, yours would be more exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think there's two good teams here, so that's why I got to see some goals in this one, Phil.
Yeah, I don't know. This one just feels like one of those ones to me where, I just think it'll be 0-0. It just feels no other score ever even crossed my mind.
Okay, well, it's written down now, Phil, so it's noted. The next one I've got down is 14th place Rochdale on 11 points, taking on 13th place Bristol Rovers, also on 11 points. Rochdale played one more.
No, this isn't the toilet bowl.
No, we've got one other coming up that would be more fitting for the toilet bowl. I think both these teams have sort of have moved out of the bathroom and into the living room, really.
At least into the laundry room.
Yeah, they've moved up in the household. Rochdale. They've conceded, 14 goals, only and scored 9. Where Bristol have scored 9, conceded 12. I think when you look at their Bristol's away record is not that bad. They won 2, drawn 1, and lost 1. I just think I'm going to go with a draw on this one, and I'm putting down that might be some goals in it because of their defensive records, and I'm going to go 2-2.
That's funny, Tony, because I was also thinking 2-2. So I think we're right in line on this one.
Okay, all right, sounds good. And our last, but not least, would be our toilet bowl match of the week. And that is 19th place Wigan on 7 points, taking 20th place Northampton, also on 7 points. If you look at these two teams, Wigan's got one draw in the last 5 matches, and Northampton has got one win in the last 5. This could be a real slow game, if you know what I mean. I don't see a lot of action in this one.
2-2 with four own goals and 3 send-offs.
Well, I'm going to give Wigan the edge on this one because they're both their wins have come at home. Northampton, they have won away. They've won twice away, so they could give them a run. But I see this as a low-scoring affair, and I'm going to give Wigan the edge 1-0.
All right. Well, in last week's Toilet Bowl game, there were 2 red cards by Blackpool and 1 combined goal between the 2 teams. So do you see more goals or more red cards in this?
Well, I see more goals in this one. I don't know if these teams are physical teams to get red cards, but one never knows when both teams are struggling, and especially if one of these teams gets ahead, the other team then, as we saw in other matches like Blackpool, sort of don't react positively. And I think I'm going to stick with the 1-0 Wigan win.
Well, to put it into toilet terms, I feel like right now Northampton is in the toilet, but they're still a bit of a floater, where Wigan is in mid-flush form right now. So I'm going to go with a road upset here and say Northampton takes it 2-1.
You're giving everybody a lot of credit with 3 goals and not one. That's written down, Phil. We'll wait and see, and looking forward to the matches on the weekend.
All right, Tony. Well, I think that was everything we had to go down for this week's review. Did you have anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I'm good, and as I said, looking forward to the action on Saturday.
Should be a great one. Until then, Tony, on Stanley on.
Stanley on. Cheers.
Cheers.